Welcome back, everyone. This is the DomainSherpa Review After Show, where we discuss anything on the minds of our panel, the portfolios, news in the industry, recent deals, anything you want. I want to start off by thanking the DomainSherpa audience. I received a handful of emails and voicemails from people telling me that NameSherpa.com was dropping soon and heading to auction. And if I wasn't in the auction, that they were going to pick it up for me. Even Mike Berkens offered to grab it for me using his registrar. I appreciate that. That's why I love this community. Everybody's willing to lend a hand, and they're always thinking about other people. It feels great that the community is full of thoughtful people. So thanks for everybody for doing that.
What do you mean, even Mike Berkens? Like he's a slouch or
Did
something?
I say even Mike Berkens?
And well, even Mike Berkens.
Let me just point out that nobody else on the panel. No, I'm just joking. I think Paige also pointed it out to me.
Did you get the name, Michael? Did you wind up with it?
I did get it. It cost me.
Good.
Let's see. It was at NameJet. It was in auction. I think everybody else realized that I was bidding on it. Hopefully, but there was one person that kept bidding me up, and I think I got it for $250 or something.
Good for you.
It's redirecting to DomainSherpa now, and I appreciate it.
That wasn't nice of you, Rick, by the way. That's okay.
So that brings up a question. Do you use an alias that says who you are? Does that help you or hurt you when you're bidding if people know who you are on NameJet?
Yeah, I do use an alias because I don't like to promote my own portfolio. But it clearly does hurt me when somebody, in this case, but this is I consider this an exception to the rule. I don't grab that many domain names. If I do, they're usually related to something that I have a business idea for, and I don't want to announce that I'm trying to pick it up.
But say you're bidding for Learn English, and one of the bidders is learnenglish.com. Do you hammer them, or do you kind of think, well, they're probably going to go high? What do you guys think?
I mean, personally, I use the same bidding name and all, the same one, I think, on all the auction services, and I've never changed it. And I bid on the name up to what I feel I want to pay for the name, and I'm really not concerned with who else is bidding. I don't try to bid other people up just to bid them up, and I don't know. I
would think it matters if they like you or dislike you. If they dislike you, they gotta bid it up to the ceiling if they know it's you. Plus, there's always that thrill of beating Paige Howe in a domain auction, so I do that just for fun.
Especially if it's an LA domain.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be in any of those.
All right, let's open it up with a few questions from the audience. Let's see here. Well, first, there was a response posted last week on the show by a person named BB who said, "I've been at work for an hour and I haven't done any work yet. Yikes! But I gotta listen to the review." So I appreciate your enthusiasm, but if you work for somebody else, get to work. Watch the show during your lunch break or something. All right, Adam, different Adam than our panelist, asked, "What are the Sherpa's opinions on 2-letter and 3-letter .net, .org domains?" What do you guys think?
I've seen a bunch of 2-letter .nets sell, I think, the last week or two for like 10 to 15 grand. So, .orgs I would think would be in that same ballpark. 10 to 15, 10 to 20, depending on the 2 letters. 3 letters, I think they're a few $100 basically value unless they have a particular meaning.
So how do you think they recently sell a bunch of 1-letter .orgs?
They tried. They didn't sell any, though. They were for sale. And,
they all had a reserve over 50,000, I think, and none of them got an offer, right?
There were a couple that got offers right over 50, but they had a higher reserve than 50.
Gotcha.
And it just shows you.
None of them sold on NameJet. None of them sold on GoDaddy.
Yeah.
And it just shows you, because we discussed 2-letter .coms, and we agreed that you're looking at multi-million-dollar, 4, 8, 2, whatever $1 million you want to, and here the .net and .orgs, you're talking about single-digit $1,000 domain names. So look at the disparity. I mean, it's the same amount of work. The gap, to be honest with you, doesn't seem like it's shrinking. It seems like it's actually getting further away, okay? Because I don't remember ever seeing the kind of gap that I'm seeing now. A .com for the same domain name may be worth $2 or $3 or $4 million, and a .net may be worth $20,000, $10,000. 30,000, 50,000, pick your poison. It really is a fraction, and I think it's a smaller fraction than it has been.
That's because there's 700 new extensions coming.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So if we're setting the price for 2 and 3 letter .net and .org, so a range, let's say, how do the current extensions like .us, .info, .biz compare? And then how's it going to compare when there's, 100 or 500 more extensions out there where you could own 2 letters or 3 letters? Are the values of .net and .org, 2 and 3 letter .net and .org, are they going to go down, do you think?
No, they're going to go up. I think they'll go up, and because they're established. People know what they mean. I really, and I know a lot of people don't share that, but look, .org has a channel, and I think .net could be the black horse that kind of comes up on the outside, and everyone knows I'm not a .net fan. I've always said it's an orphaned extension, but when you have 1,400 or 1,900 other orphans joining the parade, that orphan doesn't look so bad anymore. I think that's what it's about. I mean, that's really what it's about. That one doesn't look so bad when you start comparing it.
What do you think, Paige? Do you think that values of 2 and 3 letter .nets are going to go up when all these new GTLDs are released?
They'll go up from coming down if you have a lot of people that are just selling them in mass. We would love to look at any list of 2-letter net and org. If someone's just said, well, their values have gone from being worth 15,000 to 7,500 to 37, whatever, it's coming down. If someone lumps them together, we'd love to look at a list because I think the disparity of the 2 letters is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And just saying, hey, I got a 2-letter .net on board, or I got a 2-letter .org on board, just like we talked about the dictionary names, I think grouping names together is going to get less and less. So specifically, I think with nets, I think a lot of companies, I wish GoDaddy would use it for their email addresses instead of secure server, get a 2-letter .net so you just type less. There's functional benefits to being a 2-letter .net, and then there's nice benefits in a 2-letter .org. So I'd love to see the values fall to where we can buy some. I think the new TLDs, they look at the existing namespace and they say, hey, we're going to be the 9th best GTLD out there, and they all see a world that has what it has now and them. And like Rick talked about, it's going to be themselves and 1,600 other ones, so there's going to be a lot of competition among them. And I think with Common Net or with Net and Org, you're still buying something where you're borrowing some prestige from every other person that's had one. So I would say I hope the prices fall so we can buy more.
Yeah, keep in mind in the new GTLD space, there's generally not going to be 2 letters available. It's pretty complicated, but they basically reserved all of those for CCTLDs. So anything that sort of matches like an existing CCTLD is definitely won't be issued in a new GTLD, and it's going to be hard to get any of them approved by ICANN anyway. So for the moment, let's just assume there are no 2 letters available. There will be 1 letters and 3 letters, of course.
All right.
Great point.
Yeah, good point. I didn't realize that. Adam, any thoughts on 2 and 3 letter .net and .org values increasing, decreasing?
Well, for the 2 letters, let's stick to that. There's only 676 combinations of nets and orgs, so those are only 2 different registries that are available. But then you go ahead and you add all the other GTLDs, and you've got 676 from each one of those. Personally, I think if anything, they're going to go down. Personally, I would much rather have a 2-letter from one of the other GTLDs than I would of .net or .org. That's just me. I'd rather find something that I'm in, like .web or something like that, and get something that I could use that way.
Yeah. All right. John Harrison asked last week, when reviewing the domains, the Sherpas look for the good in most of the domains. So he's saying that when you guys look through the list, it seems that your guys are looking for the good. Do you think it's typical of domainers and a mistake to pick a domain and then to start looking for a business model?
I'll start this one out. I typically don't look for the good. I look for the bad, and like Paige and a couple others said before, you want to make sure that it's radio approved and it's pronounceable and people can figure out how to spell it. So you definitely want to make sure that it doesn't fall into negative categories. And then once you've done that, you can look at it and see if it fits into either what you want to do or if it's a good name that you think you could move or whatever you want to do with it. But I definitely rule out the negative first. And so if I have a list of 100, I'm definitely crossing off the negative ones first, and then going back to what I have left and seeing if I want anything.
All right. What do you think, Mike?
I think it's a little different exercise what we do, here for, looking at these portfolios than what we would do going through a list of domains, seeing if there were any we wanted to buy or register or go into auction with. So I think it's sort of a different exercise. Yeah. So we do, I think, here sort of look for ones that we could say some good things about, because most of I think almost all the lists we've looked at, there's certainly, more not good ones than good ones. So I think sort of it's just the mission here.
All right. Hey, Paige, let's go to you. You wanted to discuss brandable versus keyword domain names, and you've mentioned that your company, joedomains.com, domainoutlet.com, are looking more into brandables. You're actually going to promote some brandables. What do you want to discuss between the two? Because I think most people will understand that, for example, an edutot, edutot.com is a brandable because it's not really a word that's in the dictionary, versus learnenglish.com is a phrase that people are typing into Google hundreds of thousands of times a month.
So about 5 years ago, we came up with this idea of a purpose brandable name. So we used to go to the traffic shows, and we'd be the only guy there saying we buy non-revenue names, just because we were doing resale and everyone else was doing everyone else was selling names, don't get me wrong, especially the guys on this panel. But the idea of people buying thousands of names, they were mostly buying it for traffic. So we were buying them for resale. And then we saw this marketplace develop of these words that didn't mean anything, these CVCVs and 4-letter names and 5-letter names, Maku and Madudu and Gagaga or whatever, that people would buy and they would name their startup that. And we didn't really like that marketplace because we felt like you always had to ask the company, what is it that you do? Because their name didn't say what they did, so they'd have to explain what Turkey did, or Muva, or Piva, or Divo, or something like that. So we thought that at least if your name, like we have a lot of stuff in the ology space, so if you're, goldology.com, at least there's a sense right off the bat of what you're in. But what we're realizing lately as we're selling more on the marketplaces is it does make our names more findable by people searching, because at least they're typing in one keyword and then looking for different extensions on it. Whereas if we had a name that was just, say it was PIPE or PIPU, pipu.com, how could someone really look for that name? I guess they could look for 4 letters and something like that, but they're not as hard to look for. So we're kind of trying to be not all. The one thing you can't do out there is you can't take a name that you bought for traffic, or because it had great keywords, and now it doesn't earn any revenue, and it's not getting search volume, so you say, now it's a brandable. I think there's a lot of inventory out there that we've seen that was bought for keyword, and now it's like, well, I can't sell it for that, so I'm going to call it a brandable. I think the brandable space is completely different, and we're trying to just mess around with this idea in between, that having some component like that edutot, at least if someone types in words beginning with edu, you're going to show up and they're going to be able to find you. So that's what we're trying to do more of these days.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think I looked at domainology.com as one of the names for DomainSherpa when I was looking to launch initially. So that would fit into one of your ology. I'm sure you're probably the registrant of Domainology.
We're not, but we probably want to be. But you're also borrowing prestige from other people that have been successful with an Osity, or there was a company on the New York Stock Exchange just sold for $110 million, voiceosity.com. Now, of course, they had a company behind it, but at least the name could support, a big company, because it showed what it was, what it was about. So you're borrowing some prestige without having to necessarily get involved with TM issues or something like that. Mike Berkens has tracked a lot of the Facebook trying to go after people using book at the end or something like that. But I think there's some that are safer because they're more widespread.
Yeah.
Mike, I have a Domaintologist if you're interested. If you want to rebrand your blog like Elliot, I have that, and I've got Domainer News, which is a good one.
Well, if I own Mike's blog, I might have to rebrand. So let's talk about rebranding. Rick, you heard the news. Elliot Silver rebranded elliotsblog.com to domaininvesting.com. Is that making you think twice about ricksblog.com nowadays?
No, I think I'll stay Rick. I think it was a good move for Elliot, and I think he'll do well with it. And I had a blog post about the kind of the pitfalls and what folks may expect, and yesterday, and you know, I think it was a good move for him, and because he wants to expand, and that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's a great move also. I know I was chatting with other people that were worried that he was going to lose his search engine rankings and things, and he's looking at it in a smart manner. He's got somebody that handled the design, somebody that handled the website development, and somebody that handled the making sure the search engines know that they're switching domain names and going through all the proper protocols there.
It'll take a while for the search engines to catch up, but it will eventually. And you know, I just think as long as he, you know, it's going to be a balancing act for him, because he has his audience now that's a very personalized audience. It's Elliot, and trying to go to a larger ocean or a pond or whatever, and it'll be a balancing act.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, you know, it's obviously it's a really smart move. It you know, at least it puts you in a position to, you know, puts him in a position to be able to, you know, even sell, you know, the blog at some point in time, which you really can't do with Elliot's blog. You know, you can't sell, you know, blogs have sold, you know, and but you know, they can't. They have to be, you know, have better, more brandable names than Elliot's blog. So I think he's taken himself out from a, you know, no possible sales situation to, you know, potentially being able to sell it at some point in time.
How much do you think now, Elliot didn't disclose how much he paid for the domain name. I think he said that he bought it from Lonnie Bork. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What do you guys think that he paid for the domain name?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if how comfortable I am about talking about it. I know Lonnie and you know, Elliot very well. I don't know. I mean, I assume it's more than 50,000.
Really?
I would think so.
Any other thoughts?
I'll guess. I think it would have been about 25 to 30.
Paige, what's your guess?
Well, I would be guessing, and I'd say 20.
Rick, what do you think?
Well, I would be guessing too, and I don't know that there's always money involved in everything, so
right.
Not necessarily money involved.
Yeah.
Your friends
All right.
at Estebat, what?
What'd you say, Mike?
Your friends at Estebat, what do they have value it at?
I don't know. That's a good question. Somebody type it in an Estebat. I don't have my browser open because I didn't want to bog down my internet. Anybody have Estebat open?
No.
How do you spell it?
DomainInvesting.com is well, it says DomainInvesting.com is for sale.
Ooh.
For $200,000. I guess they're pulling out maybe from Domain Tools, or they're pulling out from Buy Domains. So it was for sale. Buy it now for $200,000.
So yeah.
Their valuation is $2,200.
Close. That's close.
That's pretty close. All right. The exact match search volume is 212 per month at a cost per click of $14.57. So that's probably for the registrars who are paying an enormous amount of money to get people anything related to domain names, to register domain names.
Michael,
But,
I think
that exact match, if that doesn't include mobile, then I don't think those numbers really mean anything anymore.
Why?
Well, because, you know, before Google phased out their keyword search tool, you had three things you had to pick from when you looked at your exact match. You had desktops and laptops, mobile devices, and all browsers, meaning mobile and tablets.
Right.
And the numbers that everybody was picking up were only the desktop and laptop numbers.
Right.
They weren't picking up mobile devices and tablets. And you may have noticed that mobile devices and tablets are making up a greater share of internet traffic.
Yeah.
So Google came out at the same time they got rid of the Google research tool, and now they're not letting advertisers pick between those three traffics. they're saying you've got to pay one price for all of it. And so that may mean that the new numbers in the new tool make sense, but we actually look for a couple tools. We try to think of a word that would be searched mobile more than desktop. And we came up with In-N-Out Burger. If you live in California and you have an In-N-Out Burger, that you're going to want to find one from your phone. And sure enough, we got a number higher on the mobile search than we did on the desktop. And if you just would have searched, Google keyword search tool and gotten 40,000 a month, you would have missed 100,000 searches by not doing the mobile. So we were always kind of hesitant with those numbers because we didn't like the fact they didn't take into account mobile.
Well, that's a good question. I'm going to ask Luke Lazan over at Estabot, because I think that his stats pull in all form factors and it's an estimate of all search engines, whereas if you just use the Google tool, it's only the Google search engine. So, but great point.
Mike?
Yeah, Adam.
I think it's a great example of when a domain has a certain value and it's considered low because it's probably looking at retail, but to the owner of the domain name, it's quite valuable. So somebody, again, with a use for it, with a service they want to advertise, with the right products on the site, I mean, he's going to make very good use of this, and for him, it's a good investment. Mm-hmm. So it's a good example that you also have to go by what's in your head for the use of the domain name and what you think you can make off of it, and forget about what it may sell for an end user.
Yeah. So what did you think about taking one name from 35 different portfolios and evaluating it this week within those value buckets? What did you guys think?
I like it better.
Yeah, I like it better too.
Well, I like it better because we end up with a better quality list of names.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you end up with some names, a few names, maybe let's say 8 or so or 10 that should be dropped, and you end up with another 5 or 10 that are on the high end. So it's a good example. If we were to look at it as a portfolio, it would be you have some good cream of the crop, you've got some duds, and you've got a lot in between, which is pretty much the way everybody's portfolio is. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that everybody makes, I would say, 95% of their income from 5% of their names, and the rest is just we have them for certain reasons or things we wanted to do we never got around to, or speculation gone bad.
Not on that question, but going back to the question about finding the good in names, we kind of, when we look at lists, we kind of have two hats. There's the separate a big list of names to the ones you might be interested on to bid on, and then here's the list of names that we're interested in, how much do I want to bid on them? So if you're looking at a drop list of 10,000 names or even the best 1,000, you are just going through looking for something in that name that would make it attractive, and you're kind of doing a pass-fail on it. You're like, okay, I want to remember that one for later, remember that one for later, remember that one for later, remember that one for later. And then you almost have to do a completely different mindset to say, of the ones I thought might have something compared to just junk, now what do I really think they're worth? And so I think when we were looking at the list early on, it was kind of just, is there any attribute in them at all that could have some value? And whereas this stage that we did today, Michael, we are saying, okay, these are all probably registered, they're all probably reasonable names. Now let's rank them in terms of versus a price level. So I thought that was a better exercise, and again, like Adam said, something we do every day.
Yeah. Great. Hey, Mike Berkens, let's talk about VIPshop.com. You posted on thedomains.com yesterday, actually 2 days ago when this video comes out, that publicly traded VIPshop.com under the New York Stock Exchange symbol VIPS, whose site is at VIPshop.com, has quietly acquired the domain name VIP.com. First off, how do you even know these things? You post these kind of stories often. How do you find out that a publicly traded company acquires a domain name if they're not announcing it?
Various ways. Various ways. Honestly, this one was told to me by somebody.
You've got secret sources.
So yeah, but I mean, it's a really interesting acquisition, and of course, VIP Shop looks to be sort of like an Amazon-like site in China. It has a 3.77 billion market cap. Of course, I didn't know anything, never heard of them before yesterday.
Yeah,
I looked all that stuff up. But I mean, so what would that name? The name apparently did sell back. What I say, 2005.
2005 for 1.4 million.
Right. So, I mean, there's a name that could certainly should have sold for 10 million plus, and easily could have sold for 25 million or even more for that kind of a company.
Yeah. So what does everybody else on the panel think VIP.com sold for? You know, Rick, if you look at it, under 1,000, over 100,000, over $1 million, is that a million to 10 million, or is that a 10 million and over?
No, it's over 10 million. Matter of fact, it's just a matter of degree. You know, I remember when they used to laugh at even mentioning an 8-figure domain name. So if you don't know what an 8-figure domain name looks like, folks, this is an 8-figure domain name. And I mean, you know, it could be a $20 million domain. It could be a $50 million domain name. It could be anything in between. It has that kind of value and that kind of recognizability, and translates well, and everyone knows what it means, and it's just a fantastic name. I mean, in every sense of the word, it's a fantastic name, one of the best.
Yeah.
There's 5 active applications for .vip.
Oh.
There's, I think, 9 active applications for .shop, and I think one of the boards put shopping in contention with shop today. So, so this is really interesting that, you know, it's a combination of very popular terms, and, you know, what will .vip go for in you know, the new GTLD auctions?
Yeah.
Be an interesting topic, I guess, as well.
Yeah, and since there are 5 applicants for .vip, that's just up in the price tag, or up in the value, let's say, of VIP.com, wouldn't you say? At least in the short run, next 5 years after that domain name extension comes out.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, I mean, look who the register. I mean, the applicants, you know, for it or Google is one applicant. So it depends on who, you know, winds up getting, you know, .vip. If Google gets .vip, that's, I think, it's different than, you know, some of the other, you know, applicants getting VIP.
Yeah.
But you know what? VIP.com in one domain has more power and more universal than all the .vips that they can invent. And that's the beauty of having the .com, and that's why the value can only go up. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing.
Berkens, who is that?
Oh, sorry.
I mean, they haven't published what it went for, right?
No.
So it seems like back in 2007, before, you know, Lehman Brothers and all that stuff, we got up to $1 million being the price for a really good domain name that wasn't, you know, sex or gambling. I mean a pure, you know, stellar domain name. And it seems like we've had to back and fill to get back to that $1 million mark. And it seems like we're going to get there in this round of, you know, kind of, there's a lot of startup money out there. And what I'd love to see happen is to get into Rick's range of 1 to 10 million, where we start exploring the difference between a $2 million name, a $5 million, an $8 million name. I don't think we've explored the top end yet, because even at $2 million, talking about a company amortizing that over 10 years, which is $200,000, which is $18,000 a month on their books. And if they own a $2 million domain name, they're probably going to be able to go raise $10 or $15 million. So I don't think we've gotten to explore it, but just like a stock that falls and craters, and you kind of have to work it back up to get to its level, I feel like we're still working our way back up to reestablish what $1 million name is. And I just have a feeling that maybe this wasn't 10 million, maybe this was right around that million range, and that we need to have more transactions there to set that as the base for a really great one-word name, and then explore the pricing between 1 and 10 million. So again, I don't know what it went for, but I feel like we need more $1 million transactions to then build this base between 1 and 10 million.
Mm-hmm. Rick, were you going to say something?
Well, I think we're seeing that base now. I think, what was it, 114 for 2 million and change in the summer, and there was one a few weeks. Pardon?
IG.com.
Right, for $4 million, I believe, or something like that. Mycel, and then all the non-disclosures, which are more than all of the ones that are disclosed. I mean, you got to understand, the ones that are disclosed are in the minority. Most most of these sales are not disclosed. Look, Elliot didn't even disclose his sale. He's a domainer. I mean, and it's okay. But I mean, domainers, as a rule, do not disclose the deals. I mean, look at all the deals that are done, and look at the percentage that are actually disclosed. It's very few, and most of I won't give in when it comes to the non-disclosure. I'll walk away before I sign the non-disclosure because I need that deal public for my next sale. Mm-hmm. Because like Paige is saying, it's just like stocks. We're building a foundation of value. And while we did fall back for a while, we ain't back anymore. And not only did we hit the $1 million mark, but now we've definitely eclipsed it, and it's becoming commonplace. And people aren't, you got to remember the reason most people have the non-disclosures to begin with is they were embarrassed to spend $1 million or $2 million for a domain name, and they thought all their peers were going to laugh at them. Okay, so they didn't want anyone to know. Okay, well, and that's changing, and that mindset is changing, and people are starting to understand value and what a domain name means. And when you amortize it over 5, 10, 20 years, 50 years, and this is for, this isn't a light decision for companies, and maybe they're starting to recognize it. This is a decision that's going to affect them for the next 100 years. Maybe they won't be alive for the next 100 years, but their children are going to be alive for the next 100 years or 50 years, and their grandchildren. And now they have to start looking and say, wow, this is no longer a fad. I have my competition out there with advertising a great domain name. My lunch is getting eaten. Guess what? There's only one way I can get back into the game. I can either say, you know what, I had a good run and I'm going to retire, or I'm going to pony up the millions that it takes to get in the ball game, and I'm going to make a run for it because, you know what, we've always been number one, and we're not going to settle for being number two. And that's what's going on, and domains are still the number one ego stroke in the history of mankind. Remember that. Besides everything else, a great domain name is the single greatest ego stroke ever known to mankind, and you're going to see that more and more visible.
Preach it, brother.
The king has spoken.
The king has spoken.
And with that, we're going to call it a show because I've got to get out of my reserved conference room. Thank you, gentlemen, for the great after show. I will see all three of you, minus Paige. We're going to miss you, Paige, next week in Florida. If you're watching the show and you got a chance to get out to Florida, it's not too late. TargetedTraffic.com. We'll all be there in person except for Paige, who will join us at the next one. And have a great night.
Who's filling in for Paige? Who's filling in for Paige? We need to fill in.
Is Berkens bringing his dog?
Yes.
There you go.
All right. See you guys next week.
Good night, guys. See